Om. Namaste to all. Today we are going to talk about our own life, our own relationships with others, and who doesn't want to have a happy relationship with everyone we interact with. But the situation is, not all our relationships are a pleasant one or a pleasurable one. This includes the people we love the most, even them we don't like all the time. There are differences of opinion, there are different moods, different interactions. So, how do we get maximum happiness and joy in our relationship? Now, here we come with a big problem. We are talking about our relationship. So, the question is, who is that I? Who is that me we are talking about? Immediately we will say it is me, I. So, when we ask who is this I, the topic becomes 100% spiritual, because that is all we are focused on, right? In spirituality, the entire message is about trying to find who is this I. Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi, he famously asked this question, who am I? And he encouraged all of us to ask the same question. And the interesting thing about that question is, it opens many doorways deep within. But this question of I is not for the person who is not prepared. Even in our daily life, we use the word I, me, myself in a very loose way. When you have a headache or stomach ache, you are referring to the body. You say, I am sick. Then when you are talking about hunger and thirst, you are referring to your prana or life force. Then when you are talking about I am happy, I am sad, I am angry, you are referring to that of a state of mind. Then when you are referring to your intellect, you use a different set of words, but you still use the word I. So is the I referring to the body or the mind or the intellect or the things you own, the relationships you include, the objects you have? It can be a bit confusing. But this I is at the root of this entire equation. And we are not willing to go deep into this journey, understand that this I is basically referring the Atman, the Jivatman. The average person is not interested. So what happens? We ourselves don't know what is the I we are referring to. So obviously the person whom we are interacting, they are also not going to be sure about what we are talking about. So we are leading in a confusing situation, like the blind leading the blind. The situation is no good with the other person also. They are also in the same boat. So when you and I enter into some sort of relationship, whether it could be like of a friend, whether it could be of any equation, like a boss and an employee, it could be a co-traveler in a bus. So there is a relationship between us and the world. So we have established the fact that we have one entity called the Atma, Jivatma. But from that entity's perspective, Atmaji sitting here is not another Atma, because I myself don't know I am an Atma. So I think that is one entity. Naveen here is another entity. Somebody else is another entity. The glass of water in front of me is another entity. So you look around the world and you call that world of objects as a separate entity. Now what happens, we don't, though we have individual relationships with different things differently, based on our likes and dislikes, based on our interaction, based on our whole host of factors, collectively this entire universe minus us, we call that as Jagat. Though we are in the Jagat, we never give the same importance to the Jagat. So it is me plus the world. That is how we understand. Now you take this equation and you have got two entities. Now we have a third entity that is all pervading these two equations and beyond, that we call as Paramatma. So we have the Jiva, we have the Jagat, we have the Paramatma. Now the relationship between Jiva and Paramatma is an advanced topic. Acharyas have dealt with it differently, different sampradayas look at it differently. But the prerequisite for that is you and I need to know and realize that we are an Atman. So for me to do, say, a postdoc research in medicine, what is the pre-qualification? I need to be a doctor. What is the pre-qualification for that? I need to have finished high school. Pre-qualification for that is middle school. Pre-qualification for that is I should have basic understanding. I should have gone to some sort of kindergarten, whatever. I should know the alphabets. So the situation here is we need to at least come to the level of understanding that we are a Jivatma, we are an Atma, before we can explore the idea of what is the relationship between Jivatma and Paramatma. Otherwise, it will be pure theoretical exercise. Like a lot of people want to do. You can see that you go to Clubhouse, there are like 20 different groups that do this kind of research. What is this? What is that? So in this equation, we don't know that we are the Atman. But we are still living in this world. We are still having interactions with other objects. So how do we reconcile this? Because I don't know that I am the Atman. Should I first go and realize that I am the Atman before I start interacting with the world? That's literally impossible, because I have been interacting with the world since my birth in this body. So that is not the solution. So we need to understand what else is the factor here. The factor we are talking about, I know that there are these three entities. I know next to nothing about Paramatma. We'll put it out. I don't know what I am referring. I don't know that I am a Jivatma. I don't know all those things. All I know is I am a simple person with a basic understanding and curiosity towards Sanatana Dharma. And I want to make sure my life is filled with happiness. That's all my goal is. I don't want to get deep into this spiritual idea because I don't know. That is the state where most of us come in. So here we have an entity. We have an entity what we call as I, which is an amalgam of many different things what I understand little or which I don't even give importance to. And then I am very comfortable with the idea of the world. I have different equation with different people. I have certain relationship with my parents. I have certain equation with my spouse if I am married. I have certain equation with my children if I have children. I have a certain equation with my boss or my employees or my junior staff. So and so we keep having different equations with different people. Some of them are healthy, some of them are happy. Maybe you have a very happy marriage. That's good. So you have a nice married life. But that is only one part of the equation because that is not the only part in our life, right? So here we are looking at the happiness in our relationships. Before we understand what is this relationship, where is this happiness coming, let's go one step further down and drill down and find out why should I have a relationship? Why can't I be a person all alone in a cave, in a remote mountain cave? Nobody is there. But even in that imaginary situation, you are sitting in a cave. That cave is a separate entity. You are a separate entity. So you and the cave have some sort of relationship. So as long as you and I have this body, we cannot escape having some sort of relationship with someone or something. So some people eat healthy to live a good life. Some people live to eat. They are all the time eating. So where are we on the scale of our relationship? Why do we have that kind of equation? So every Jivatma, we can agree that it is an separate entity. It thinks that it is distinct from the rest of the world. And when we think I am separate from that, it also experiences simultaneously a couple of feelings. One, that it is very limited. The minute you realize that you are very limited, what do you want? You want to expand and include everything. That is the natural urge, right? Like you put a piece of iron outside, what will happen after 10 years, 100 years when you come back? It would have rusted away. So the natural tendency of our jiva is to expand and be all inclusive and merge with that Parabrahma. But when it tries to do that, it understood that it is a limited entity. So it tries to go to an object. It goes to an object and tries to experience it, enjoy that. So when it tries to get that object, let's say that it is something that was agreeable and it was nice. So it gets the feeling, aha, I am happy. I have a nice equation with this thing. I wanted it, I got it. But the second it gets it, is it going to be happy? The minute it got it, it realized that though this thing it possesses, whether it is a barrel of gold, whether it is the girl you always wanted to marry or a guy you wanted to marry, whether it is the special child you wanted to have, whatever may be the case, that object, once you have gotten it, you are feeling, no, this is not everything that I wanted, there is still something more I want. It immediately realizes the shortcoming or the lacuna, and it tries to look for another object to fill it. So it goes to the next object. It goes from one object to the other object and the other object in the hope that that object will complete it. Though the object may be complementing the desires of the jiva, it is still not going to complete it because that is still a object with a limited identity. And what is that the jiva is craving for? Completeness. We all heard this Veda mantra, right? Purnamadam, Purnamidam. This is Purnam, that is Purnam. So, but I don't feel that Purnam. I am feeling this is limited, but I know that natural urge to feel that Purnam. So, why do I want to settle for the object I have already gotten? I want more. So, you want more, and then you go to the next object. Subconsciously, all this is happening for all of us. So I have this dichotomy in me that on one end there is a acute realization of my limited nature. At the same time, it wants to expand and be all inclusive. That is opposite directions. And this is why when we go after an object, we get that temporary feeling of pleasure. Because that innate feeling is there. But though that pleasure is there, right within that pleasure is built pain. Right within that happiness is built the sorrow, the potential for sorrow. When and how it will manifest, we don't know. So what do? We are busy in our life chasing from one object to another object to another object, and this cycle keeps going on and on and on. In that process, we also create vasanas, do karma, and we end up digging our hole called samsara. Why such a long topic? Why can't we just go straight into the topic of having happy relationships? Why can't we just look at Rama's life and be done with it? Initially, that was the plan. And till in the morning, I started talking, and subconsciously, I was led into laying a stronger foundation and flipping the entire logic of how normally I used to present. We used to look at the story, and then we used to come back and analyze. But in this case, we are more familiar with our own life than with Rama's story. And the objective we have is our own relationships, our own happiness. It's all about I, me, myself. So, naturally, we want to focus more on that topic before we venture into Rama to fine-tune how we can correct our way of thinking, our style of thinking, our focus, and things like that. So all of us, from so far the conversation or the discussion, it is amply clear whether we like it or not, we are all interested about I, me, myself. But we know from our previous lectures and discussions and Q&A that the human being can operate at 4 levels of vision. The lowest being I, me, myself, what we call as kama. We also know that if you, instead of taking the gaze only on, that is only rested on the I, me, myself, you put the gaze on understanding how a system works, how you can get the materials to manifest your karma. I want a bottle of water or a cup of tea. I go to your shop, I get it. I pay money, I get it. So what is that I need? I need some artha, something that would translate. Now the guy says, no, I don't want your money because you are not giving me in the currency I want. So what we do? We focus on getting the artha, but again we are stuck with only manifesting our karma. Some people go to the level of dedicating their entire mind and resources on what is the artha. Just because we have money and we earn money, no matter how much we make, whether it is a 6 7 figure let's say dollar income, doesn't matter, because we are still operating under the premise of karma. So artha also we are not there. Then what is the next level? We already know that we called it as dharma. So we have heard of the 4 purusharthas: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We don't understand or deliberate on much on moksha. Call it the colonial influence, call it the collapse of our dharmic ecosystem. Whatever may be the rhyme or reason, we have not focused enough on moksha. And then we also disconnected ourselves from dharma, dharma chintana. And today you can't even talk of dharma to the average person because they have been told dharma is something that is communal. Dharma is something like ridiculous people talk about. It must be something bad. So the average Hindu is given to understand all these things because the roots of his connection with dharma, his or her connection with dharma is very shaky. And if you really look at our average person's life, we have chopped moksha and we have thrown it out. We have disconnected ourselves from dharma and dharmic thinking and the dharmic ecosystem. We have dismantled, thrown it out. Artha, we have a equation with it. As long as it fuels my karma, I will deal with it. So what have we done is all the understanding we have, the vision we have, relationship we have, the focus is about I, me, myself. In the past, we used to have a huge dharmic understanding. We used to say like Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. We used to say Sarva Bhuta Hiterata, that let all beings be happy. We are not talking about just human beings. We are talking about even the ant, the grasshopper, the everything. We want everything to be happy. We had that expanded dharmic mind. Today it has collapsed. We don't understand. We don't even, there are people who still to date, how shallow it is to hear and see tweets and talks from people who are saying, oh, we could have been still the colony of the British. And these are people who are raised by this uh, deracinated, secularized Sikh mindset, and they are still we call us Indians. When the news of India overtaking UK economy, many of these characters openly whined. They openly say, look, per capita GDP of UK is way high. We are not. What are you guys celebrating? Well, if you want our GDP to become 5 times that of Britain, you will have to at least overtake it. And that is where we are right now. Wait another 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, we will be there. But these are characters who don't even have that much open minded, broad minded understanding. So, our understanding of the nation is not the same when we fought for our independence, and it shrunk again. It said, my state. When the faulty partition or demarcation of the different states were based on the linguistic basis, one of the blunders of uh, the man who should have been focused on the nation was too busy with some other personal chores. That is the problem. So again, from the state level thought, are we fully focused on a state? No, we say like, no, 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 my community, my people, my caste, my jati, my this, my that. Then we used to be like it. There is a saying in many parts of India where we used to say that it takes a village to feed a child. Until 3, 4 generations ago, 5 generations ago, the entire village would have taken care of that child's needs, be it education, be it what is it like a vocation or anything. Now that also we lost. So our loyalty is, when I say mine, I don't even include my village or my town or my city. I am all my understanding. Today we live in multi-story buildings. We don't even know our flat neighbor. So we have shrunk our understanding to such a low level that we don't even know where that mine or my, because it is such a shallow thing. We used to have joint family, now we are nuclear family, now we have gone one level even below that, now we are nuking our own family. And now we are in a situation where we are focused on just my own immediate family. I'm not even bothered about my distant relatives, these people, those people. No, no. I'm only I, me, myself, which will probably include my wife, my children. Now, that also is a thing of the past. You are thinking, oh, my wife, me, or my husband, me, and children. Once children are grown, no, 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 they are on their own. It is me and my spouse alone. That also has gone because we are only thinking about just ourselves. I'll give a couple of anecdotes. These are real anecdotes, so you can go to Twitter and you can see this. I saw a couple of days ago there was this, like there was a time when reception used to be held after the marriage. Today, the scary pre-photo wedding photo shoots that are happening are really scary. The amount of money they want to flaunt, and they don't even want to have that in the relationship. It's all about an event. So this couple is standing in a reception. I assume that it is before marriage. Somebody came to give some gift or something like that. Some discussion happened. Husband and wife, or the bride and bridegroom, they started having a quarrel. The guy hits the girl. The girl, not to be left around, she starts hitting back. Scene is so ugly. And there was a friend who said like, oh, if this is what is marriage is going to be. I don't want to be married. Now this guy is a bachelor. There is another anecdote. This also thanks to Twitter. There is this girl who married less than 2 years marriage or something. One day she comes to her husband, hey husband, I am pregnant with your child. Okay, wow, jolly. That's the first child. Let's celebrate it. And then the wife says, hey, by the way, you transfer all the net worth you have, the house, the car, whatever, all those things, transfer it to me and the child's name. Husband is like, hey, we are one family, right? We are one family. Why are we worried about what are we talking about? Giving the entire money to your name. What is this? So discussion went on. Wife found that the husband was not towing her line. So she went and aborted the child. I'm not telling a fairy story or rather a nightmare. This is what is happening in India, in the land which did not know what was divorce 50 years ago, in a land that respected life, in a land that taught Dharma. Once you remove Dharma, the difference between the Western society and Indian society is Western society is disciplined. You tell them you do this, they will do that. Indian society was not like that. You can't discipline the Indian society. It was only made great because of Dharma. But what we have done, we have taken Dharma away from the equation. So all that is left is this I, me, myself, Kama fest. That Kama fest is literally eating us. So we have to understand what is the vision we are having in our life is going to determine how that relationship is going to be. So the vision we all have, and we just proved that all of us are living, or majority of us, let's be honest, there's no question of all, never, everyone, like that, right? It's the majority of us, not the people in here. I'm not talking about the satsangis here. I'm talking about the majority of us in the nation, in the civilization, are only focused on having that I, me, myself relationship as a vision. They are not worried about Dharma. And again, what is this Dharma? We have taken a lot of time in the past to focus on what is Dharma. Yes, today's topic is all about happiness in relationships. We are also going to talk about Rama. And if this talk spills over, we will discuss that as part 2 next week. But we are taking time to understand our own selves. We are putting ourselves under a microscope and we are being ruthless, being very objective in understanding how we are operating. If all I am operating at the level of karma, then my driving force is only that of karma. It doesn't matter if I have to lie, cheat, steal, deceive somebody for my cause. I am ready to do that. Is that not what we are seeing around the world? And then the world and the objects I interact and the people I interact are a means to my end. That's what I think. So does everybody. So will you not have a conflict? Let's say, for example, simple sake of understanding. I am in the park. Nobody is around me. I am swinging my arms. I'm swirling my arms. Now, here comes you. And you are also swirling your arms. Maybe more rapidly. Now what happens at some point as we approach each other, it is bound to cause one of us to touch each other, cause some pain and angst. So we have this vision of I, me, myself, and I am not bothered about any bounding laws or anything that matters. Yet I am only worried about my personal desire to manifest. So is everyone. Is it not bound to bring a clash? Of course it will. So if that happens, one person gains, one person loses. One person gains at the cost of another person. Will there be a happy relationship? No. Let's look at how relationships happen. For example, you may have a give equation. Have you seen? Like, for example, like if you went like few generations ago, the parents would have never complained, look, I'm giving all this to my children. They are thankless. They are worthless. You will never hear them because they just did their dharma and they just left it at that. But today's parents are not in that same league, right? They may be in the same position, but they are not in the same league. I'm not talking about everybody's parents, I'm just saying in general trends. So obviously, there comes a situation when the children don't meet or rise up to the expectations or their desires. The question comes, I did all this for you. So we have this expectation come into the factor. The minute we have expectation in a relationship, guess what? Some of them are going to be met, some of them are not going to be met. And if it doesn't meet, what will happen? You're not going to be happy. Somebody is not going to be happy. So in a give equation, if I am the guy who is giving and you are the one who is taking, it may be okay. Let's say a boy and a girl. The girl gives in to the boy thinking that he will do everything, and now 20 years after marriage the guy is still taking, not giving anything back. Do you think that lady, I mean, you could imagine a guy the other way around too, but I'm just saying in this example, will that lady get frustrated or not? Obviously she is going to be frustrated and she is going to say, nah, I'm not going to be continuing this equation. Is that not what is happening in the many marriages that we see around? Now I am saying that in a marriage because marriage is the foundational block or the building block of Sanatana Dharma society. So if the marriages are falling and failing, then obviously the society is going to be built on the same material. You build a tower, a castle based on cards, what will happen? Playing cards? It's going to come down crashing at some point in time. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. Now there may be the other equation where you may be the one taking. You may be the lucky guy, you think. At some point, the other person is going to break down. So we say, okay, we will have a give and take relationship. I will take 90%, you give me 90%, I'll give you 10%. Now, different relationships will be different. The percentages of these could be different. It could be now how is this relationship again happening? This relationship is happening based on a artha. I have a need, you fulfill it. You have a need, I fulfill it. So it's a quid pro quo. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. So remember we were talking about dharma, artha and kama. Now, dharma's ultimate goal is moksha. No question about it. All Shastras are unequivocal on that. There is no doubt or whatever. But we, for the time being, let's leave that Paramarthika plane, that we are not, like as I said in the beginning, we are not going to go to the postdoc part of it till the time we graduate and qualify for that level, till the time we have realized our real nature and our connection with this Jagat, understand it and operate it fully. We are not going to go to that level. So, no point in saying what is the connection between Jivatma and Paramatma. We'll park it aside. First, let's graduate. Before we graduate, we have to go to the high school. Before that, we have to go to primary school. Before that, we have to go to kindergarten, learn our ABCs. We are not even there. We are like toddlers still soiling our diapers. So by the time, let's get potty trained and let's get focused on getting ready for that pre-K. That's what we are all trying to do here in a oversimplified way. So what is the equation between this Jiva and Jagat? So far we've understood that is dependent on the sliding scale we are using. We have demonstrated so far that all my actions are centered around I, me, myself, and my interaction with the world, with the Jagat, is that of a what I need, can I get it? If I can tolerate and part as little, I will do that and I will get that from the world. That is the equation. So we are only dealing with that artha, just like the same way we know about artha, because we want to fuel the desires. We want to manifest those desires. Now there is a 100 meanings for the word dharma. We are not going to go into the different meanings of dharma. One meaning we can take is like order, like a limit. What is the limit we are talking here? And do we have an example? See, sometimes what happens, we go theoretically so deep into a topic, question comes like even yesterday we were talking. The theory and practical has to complement each other. Is there someone we can look up to? Yes, you can look at the great acharyas, you can look at the great people all around us, even generations before. They need not even have to be spiritual people, they could be normal people. You look at the what is it, like even a small mention of this character. Take for example the three rishis that are mentioned in Ramayana. The Sravana Kumara, his parents, blind parents, they are mentioned as rishis with very sophisticated, advanced sadhana. So it could be even that normal person also is in that level because they took the time to do that. But we are not in that level. So where do we look at? The best role model we can look at is Bhagavan himself. But looking at Parabrahmam or that Nirguna Brahmam, it's very difficult. So we have to look for those examples that are close to us, like the avatars. You want to look no further than Rama and Krishna. And the focus of our topic is going to be Rama. Like I said, we may be just touching the topic today. We will continue the thing in the next week in a finer detail as a part 2. So why do we have to look at Rama? Because we call him Maryada Purushottama, right? What is the Maryada is demonstrating? He is the one who is saying that if you cross this boundary, that is where Dharma starts, this is where Dharma ends. He shows that line, doesn't he? Numerous cases in his life, whether it is the less understood Valivada or Sita's Agni Pravesha or any such topic. Rama's entire life has been straddling that thin line, showing us that boundary, that razor edge, that laser edge. One small misstep, it could land you on the other side, the darker side. So, our focal point, our study has to be on the best of the best example, and that is why we have picked Rama. We have understood the complications of the interactions between Jiva and Jagat. We have also understood that when we are operating at the Kama level, we tend to make a lot of mistakes. And even the Artha interaction we have is driven by Kama in our case. So we want to look at the golden standard, Dharma. And for Dharma, we want to understand from the best, that is Rama. Why do we have to look at Rama? A few weeks ago, we had the discussion when we were talking about the different villains and what we can learn from them. We looked at the case of Maricha. I don't know, folks, if you are not there, you can always go and listen to that talk in the namesake YouTube channel, Sanatana Marivom. I'm sure it is posted. If it is not, I will make sure it is. So those who were the different characters, how they interacted with Rama, gave different shades of their understanding. But nobody came close to explaining the real nature of Rama for us. We already know that from different satsangas, there are two levels in which we see Bhagavan's way of interaction, or Bhagavan's, we can perceive his action, his presence. One is when Bhagavan is just operating himself, what we call as Paramarthika. We don't understand that level. Again, that is PhD level. We'll park it aside. We can parrot a lot of what the different acharyas have told, but whether it is from our own experience, very few people have that experience, at least here. So what we do, we parrot what other acharyas say, and some of them are nice enough to say that, yeah, I'm copying and quoting these acharyas. Some of them are too modest to say that, and they say, no, I figured out everything myself. But that same Bhagavan is also operating in this world. Just like you and I are interacting with the world, Bhagavan is also interacting with this loka. What we call as Vyavaharika, our Vyavaharika. How is Bhagavan operating in this Vyavaharika plane? We have seen that Bhagavan operates in this plane as Dharma. Do we have any proof? Yes. We have one person who was the sidekick and lackey for Ravana, who was as useless character as Ravana, because he was part and parcel of all the deception and all the violence he was part of. That is Maricha. You will see in the Uttarakanda that how Ravana surrounded himself with many asuras, rakshasas, who are doing his bidding and who are just like his, cut from the same cloth. And this Maricha tasted Ramabana once, only once. The second time, the Ramabana excused him and he had a close call. Third time, he fell for Ramabana. Now, with that one Ramabana taste, he got a real insight into who Rama was. He says, Rama is Ramo Vigrahavan Dharmaha. That Rama himself exists as Dharma. Of course, we can give a lot of other Shastra Pramana like Krishnam, Krishnam Dharmam Sanatanam, and so on and so forth to say that Bhagavan exists as Dharma. Now we don't have this understanding, so unless we alter our, change our vision from Kama to Dharma, we will not be able to perceive that relationship to the fullest. What is our endeavor? Our endeavor is to have happy relationships with everyone we want. Whether it is our spouse, whether it is our child, whether it is our neighbor, whether it is. So how do I operate? Depends on my vision. My vision right now is stuck at the level of Kama and I want to change that to the level of Dharma. And how do I do that? So here is where we are going to look at Rama as an example. But today we will just have a foundational insight into what we are going to develop next week as part 2. Rama, now if you really look at all, even before we go to Rama, how do we understand Dharma? There was a gentleman who asked a question today morning also, and even other times also. I don't understand Dharma. I don't understand what is Dharma. Nobody sat and taught me. That is exactly true. Nobody is even following enough to do that. So how do we learn Dharma? It has to be coming from only, we don't see the role models around us. We don't see a Harishchandra walking around us. We don't see a Bhagirath around us. We don't see people of that caliber and that level around us. So the first thing we need to understand is people who are understanding Dharma are very important. And you can only learn from a good example, not from a okay example or a so-so example. So we want to look and get that understanding, grasp that from Satsanga. Now Satsanga doesn't mean only here. Satsanga means anywhere where you are connected with Sat. Unfortunately, when we say Sat, immediately people think that not speaking lies is truth, and that is Satya. That is our poor level of understanding today. You go and ask a person, are you a good person? Yeah, I am a good person. Can you tell me why you are a good person? See, I never told a lie and I never killed anyone. Oh, is that a concession that we are giving to others, that hey, I didn't do that? Because our understanding is if I didn't do those negative things, I am automatically the good guy, which is far from truth. So our basic understanding has to be what is Dharma. Now Dharma is not like a yes or no answer. There was a gentleman who popped in today at the end of the Tamil lecture and he said, hey, can you quickly tell me in a few words what is Dharma so that I can keep it, retain it. So we have to explain to him that Dharma is not something like 10 commandments, like the desert religion, that thou shalt do this, thou shalt not do this. Because Dharma is going to change depending on the situation, depending on your scenario. So it is a fluid one. It is not going to be cast in stone. So if I say Ahimsa Paramo Dharma, then all the border area, all the terrorists are coming, all the bad guys are coming. If the soldier says Ahimsa Paramo Dharma, let them all go in, go inside and kill whoever they want. Is that is Dharma? So our understanding has to be contextual. But we don't understand the context ourselves, so how do we get it? And that is why we have to go through this painful, so called painful process. Actually, it's the most enjoyable process of just hanging out and having satsanga. Now, satsanga, again, as I clarified, is not coming to only a club like this where we talk. It could be just you picked up Valmiki Ramayana and you are now looking at Sundarakanda and you are now reading. Now, you take that bit of information. Now, you are engaging your mind in the contemplation, thinking, reflecting on what you just listened or you read or you heard. And then you are trying to engage yourself. Now that engagement becomes complete when you have taken that idea and made it as your life. So you have taken an idea externally and then you have taken time to assimilate it, reflect it. After you assimilated it, it has become part of you. Just think like this. You are eating, the speed at which you are eating anything, you are, let's say, like in 10 minutes you can finish your plate of food. Does the body take 10 minutes to assimilate it? Takes much longer. It takes many hours for the body to digest, to take it and put it in, right? The same way, when it comes to Dharma understanding also, it is a process. It's a time dependent process. It is a engagement driven process. It is a process that takes active participation from our side. So we need to take that time to understand Dharma. That is the first step. But many of us don't even know that. And we say like, hey, I don't know, somebody is even following that. Who do I do that? Answer is simple. You don't have to have live people to be the role model. All you have to do is crack open Itihasa Puranas and you will find so many characters. In fact, many of the talks we give here in this club, whether it is Tamil or English, you will find them consistently. Every weekend we have been talking about some character and it is all centered around Dharma. So Dharma understanding comes over a period of time. We established that. But Rama also highlights the importance of two other types of requirement when it comes to Dharma. We have been talking about how Dharma is the center or the key to happy relationships. We have been looking at how Rama's example is going to fit. But before that, we took time to understand how we operate in real world. And what we are going to do now is to understand the two other elements that are required apart from the Dharma understanding. We also need two more players or roles, right? Like if you are in a family, you have a role. Hey, I am the breadwinner. I am cooking food. You have different roles, right? So same way, the first basic understanding in this entire equation is Dharma understanding. Now you could be an understanding Dharma, but that understanding comes like based on what we told, only by following what little we know. So just like a child that is wanting to run in the Olympics has to learn how to run locally. Before that it does that, it needs to know how to walk. Before that it needs to stand and hold something and then crawl before that, and it goes back and back. Same way, before we implement Dharma, protect Dharma, do all these things. We need to have a good understanding of Dharma, but that Dharma will come only if we are a Dharma follower. Now it seems like a circular thing. If I am a Dharma follower only, I will become a good understander of Dharma. Why? Because I can theoretically get the knowledge from somebody. Someone says, hey, smoking is injurious to health. Alcohol is bad for you. Now, you go to the guy who is an alcoholic or a smoker and say, hey, smoking bad. They will agree with you. Yep, smoking bad, alcohol bad. But you know what? Life is short. I want to just enjoy. Or some crappy reason they will give you. So, knowing something, it is just like Dhritarashtra, who learnt so much wisdom from Bhishma, Vidura, Sanat Sujata. Even Krishna himself came and told him. All rishis, munis came and told him all such a thing. He said, that is all fine. But I can't give up my son, the attachment to my son. I have to follow whatever he says because of my attachment. So, do you think that Dhritarashtra understood all the dharma what he heard? So the proof of it is in the proof is in the pudding, as they say, right? So you and I understanding dharma is a factor of how much we are willing to go through discomfort, not worry about the personal discomfort, but we want to honor dharma. Are we in that situation? Let's take some examples and see. We heard about Shivi Chakravarti. For protecting the life of the pigeon, the dove, he was ready to cut his own flesh. We saw how Harishchandra in a few weeks before, how Harishchandra went to the extents of upholding dharma. We can go on and on with so many characters. We can say how Bhagirath did not give up on a promise that was made 3 generations before him, that to redeem his ancestors. So we can go on and on and on. So a dharma follower is the best example of a person who has understood dharma. And such people are in plenty in our Itihasa Puranas, in our Acharya Paramparas, things like that. They don't even have to be an Acharya. They could be just a disciple, but you have so many examples, right? So you have, for example, in Adi Shankara's life, you have this disciple who was on the other side of the river, Narmada. It's a huge river, raging flood. He said, like, come here this side. He didn't look at the river or whatever. Acharya is called. Listening to Acharya is the only dharma I need to uphold. He started walking across water, and a lotus sprang to hold his foot. At least that's how the story goes, and that's how Padmapada got his name. So we have so many examples of people how they don't worry about their own situation. Take Venkanna for example. In Swami Raghavendra's life, this is a boy who is illiterate, who is grazing goats and some cattle, and the Nawab comes and says, hey, come and read this. Boy could not read. If he doesn't read, the Nawab is crazy. You know how these Islamic invaders were and rulers were, they would just cut the head. It doesn't matter to them. So he mentally prayed to Raghavendra and surrendered. His dharma was, look, I am here as a disciple, I surrender. Sharanagati. So whatever is the dharma, now understand our dharma is going to change based on our role, our stage of our life. That's why we are having, everything is going to be dependent on our guna and karma and the stage of our life, on the situation. So that's why we don't have a rule book. So we have identified that the person who is having the dharma understanding, the best example of that is the one who is a dharma follower at any cost. We can say so many examples like that. We can tell the story of how Mudgala did. We can say story of Ribu. We can tell the story of so many great people, on and on and on. Even you can go to the Vedas and you can go to the Upanishads. Has so many characters that pop in there. They uphold the truth. Take the story of Satyakama Jabala. He goes to his guru and says, teach me, I want to know what is Brahman. Guru says, who are you? He goes to his mother and he says, Mom, who is me? Because you do Gotra Abhivadaya and you do Namaskara to the Guru. You tell your lineage. And the mother says, son, in my age, I have to be entertaining different men, so I don't know who is your father. Now, this is the most damning situation. Jabala goes to his guru and he says, my mother says she doesn't know who is my father. That means he is a bastard. And he says, this is my situation, but I still would like to know the truth. The guru said, you are speaking and upholding Satya, the highest quality you need to know Brahman. So, granted, you will become my disciple. So, that is the basic idea you will get by looking at these examples, these exalted examples. Now, the other role we need to look at, that is that of Dharma Enabler. So, in Rama's case, we see Rama plays this role multiple times, but just for the quick understanding and completion of our thought process, there are three women who are in a situation when Rama is going to the forest. Three women are confronted with the same situation. Kausalya wants to come with her son. She says, this old man, this old fool, again fell trap for this Kaikeyi. So I want to come with you, son, to the forest. Rama says, no, you are you are not upholding Dharma. Your Dharma is to be with your husband. You can't come into the forest with me, with the son, just because you don't like something what your husband did. Your Dharma is to be with your husband. Then the funny thing is, he goes to Sita and he looks in a different prism and he says, Sita, you are young, you don't want to come to the forest, all bad things in the forest, don't come. He tried to shoo her away. Sita said, nothing doing. I will uphold Dharma just like you are upholding Dharma. Do you think just because you are the only one meant for upholding Dharma? So Rama said, okay, let's uphold together. So he accepted that argument only because Sita wanted to uphold Dharma along with him. So Rama is a Dharma enabler. And immediately Lakshmana comes and says, I also want to come to the forest. Rama said, no, you stay here, buddy. You take care of mother and father and everybody else. You do this. Lakshmana said, I don't care about anyone, I am coming. And then Valmiki doesn't go into the details here, but we can fill in the blanks. And Lakshmana might have gone to Urmila, his wife, and he might have told, honey, I am going with the brother, you stay here. Was Urmila wrong in saying that no, I should also come like Sita? No. She just understood Dharma at that level. We'll go into all these variances in Dharma understanding in the next time in greater detail, but we want to introduce this idea of Dharma follower and a Dharma enabler. So immediately we look at our family. We say, hey, husband, you are going to be Dharma enabler. You have to be strong for that. Hey, you be Dharma follower. No, it doesn't work that way. Because the roles are not cast in stone. For me to be understanding Dharma at the highest level, I need to follow that Dharma. And any person who is following Dharma will understand that unless that Dharma is upheld and protected, we can't follow that Dharma. So, by default, that person is also a Dharma enabler. So, what happens? We all have this role to protect and uphold Dharma. And only when we do that, our understanding of it is complete. And that is why the very famous words we hear very often, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. So you uphold that Dharma will in turn turn around and will protect you. So bottom line, our understanding of following Dharma, protecting Dharma is centered around our understanding, and we looking at, if we have never heard of it, if you have never studied it, you could have never thought about it, reflected on it, or implemented it. So now you understand why satsanga is crucial, because it just opens the doors and shines the light on that example, that information, that missing piece of our understanding. So we take that piece. After we did the Shravanam, we are doing the Mananam. After we do the Mananam, we are doing the Nididhyasitavyam, basically integrating it as part of our own life. So, what we have done today is lay the foundation for understanding Rama as the great example, as a wonderful role model, as the best role model we can aspire for or aspire to emulate for having happy relationships. We already established that for having great relationships, Dharma is the right vision to have, and that is the reason why we are trying to dig more deeper into what is Dharma, what is the example, what is Rama's example, and so on and so forth. So, we have taken little time to lay this foundation proper. So, next week, like I said, we flipped the role, typically the format I normally do. The reason we flipped that role was, instead of telling the story first or the information first and then try to do the analysis, here is a case we are all interested about ourselves, I, me, myself. And we have taken the time to, because we are all comfortable with that topic, we are all understanding about having interest in that topic because it is all about us. And we are all kind of selfish people. So from even a selfish vision, we want to have maximum profit, maximum advantage, and that's why we want to go to Dharma. And people ask the question, they have asked the question, why can't I just focus on my own karma? I'll be happy. The problem there is, again, for me to have some pleasure, I need to have the objects, so I need to interact with Jagat. And if I am looking only at a selfish motive, it is in mutual conflict, so I get only limited amount of interaction from it, and I'm not using it to the maximum. So, but if you used dharma, then people have this misunderstanding that, oh, I am not this saintly character, I'm not this, I'm not. We don't have to be any of those. You don't have to be a spiritual person to follow dharma. You don't have to be any such thing. All you have to do is, I want to have maximum pleasure in my relationships. So what is the best way to operate? At the level of dharma. So you have seen these Russian dolls, right? So if you have the big doll, you open that, there is another small doll, you open that, there is another small doll. So like that, this dharma is this huge big container. In that, if you open, there are so many small boxes. Those small boxes are the different artha that can be the key to a lot of our desire manifesting. So you pick the right artha, you open it. In that box, you will find your own karma that can be fulfilled legitimately. So now if you opened this process, you got dharma, you got artha, you got karma. Why should I follow dharma for my desires? I can't follow dharma, I will just do whatever way I want. You could do that too. Just like Ravana went and kidnapped Sita, right? But the problem is, if you do that way, like the way how people are, women are getting abused, minorities are getting abused, say in Pakistan, for example. You could do something like that. But what really happens in that scenario, it is short-lived. See, for many people don't understand this. You people are seeing all the calamities that are happening around the world, right? Yes, there were heat spells even in India and whatnot and all those things. But look at the damage that Pakistan is happening. Look, if you even know what is happening in China, you will be shocked. If you are not tracking China, what is happening, then the natural calamities, the Asia's largest river, Yangtze Kiang, it has dried up mostly. Now, a part of it is nature. Don't think it is all nature only. It is because of the stupidity of the CCP, majority of this is man-made. So adharma will drive you into the wrong path. So when we align our actions with dharma, we call that as punya. If you see that aligned against dharma, then it is called papa. Same situation of this drought is happening in the Midwest in US. It is happening in Europe. In Europe, the adharma is from different level. But in US, the adharma has been because they have abused this Colorado River and made it reduced it to a cesspool. For that papa, they are paying. Imagine the river that carved out many natural wonders like the Grand Canyon. Now, Grand Canyon is just one thing you will find in the Colorado River. If you go and look at all the other systems that are part of that Colorado River, the other canyon systems, other natural wonders, and how man has abused and reduced that river, that river has not seen the seashore in decades. The river ecosystem has been killed. Why am I saying that as an example? When we don't follow dharma, it has that papa karma phala that will come to us. So that is the first negative. Apart from that, we are also acting on a limited vision. So obviously we are going to get that lashback at us. So we have taken time to establish all this groundwork today. so that we can look next week at the different characters, how Rama interacted with the different characters, different scenarios, what he did with each scenario. We are going to take that in detail. For that, all these concepts we discussed today are very crucial. Maybe you may want to go and review that. Maybe it was too strong, maybe concentrated. I don't know how simple I was able to narrate and share this information. I don't know how simple it was. But basically, we are going to touch on all these points, the understanding of all these points next week, because we are going to enjoy, like they say in one of the um, I don't know who it was, Ramadasa Kriti or something like Pibare Ramarasam, right? So next week we are going to enjoy that Ramarasam, and we are going to slowly transform the way we are thinking and bring that dharmic vision. Now, we are not bringing all dharma understanding and all those things. We are just bringing the dharmic vision. We are changing, replacing our kama vision with dharma vision so that we can profit in our daily life. So, when we look at our husband or our wife or our children or our parents, our boss or our neighbor, whoever it is, or even inanimate objects, we will have the right respect for that object. We will have the right interaction and expectation with that object. So, our relationship with all those objects will be one of lasting happiness, not a short term happiness. We may have short term happiness, right? We will pause with this. We do have, let's say that, for example, somebody gives a love letter to a boy or a girl next door. Okay. They elope and they get married. Okay. Then they figure out, oh, we don't have a job. How do we feed? Right? I'm not telling you a cock and bull story. I'm telling you people I can tell you anecdotes of. Many kids who have spoiled their life. The brightest kid in some schools I have seen, 12th grade, they have, instead of they are number one in school, instead of continuing the studies, they get fall in love with some third grade person, third rated person, and then what happens? They go away, and 1 or 2 years later, they have a child. Then the relationship sours, and then they are left abandoned. With that, how many characters you want me to tell? I can tell, just mentally pop so many anecdotal information. We all know better. So we want to have long lasting relationships, happy relationships, not only with living people but also inanimate objects, by changing that vision. For that, next week we will have to wait for Rama's example. With those words, we will conclude today's talk. We will take questions and discussions and comments. But with that, Jai Shri Ram.